And hello, and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox. My name is Alex, and let's continue our Fanart project, Angry Birds vs. Transformers. Yes, let's continue. So let's just make a quick recap where we left previously. So throughout the previous session, I tried to finally finish the explorational 2D sketching phase, so we actually finally finished it. So let's just make changes to our current stage. So now we are going to go into the 5th stage, and this 5th stage is going to be now explorational 2D sketching. Oh no, 3D sketching, yeah. The whole point of this explorational 2D sketching is 3D sketching is going to be about understanding a form. So before, we not necessarily have in our mind understanding form, but now we actually need to understand form properly. For that, we will put this projections, these three projections into a 3D software, ZBrush in particular, and we will work on actually sculpting this form in order to understand its complexity. Because again, this has a bunch of things to it that we need to know in order to manipulate them. Because again, as I said before, I'm going to use these designs throughout the whole scene. It's going to be here, 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 so even piles of garbage are going to be a big part of it. So basically, the more information about this we have, the better. So let's just find our garbage piles, forget where they are. No. Don't tell me that I've lost them. Where they are. Hi man, hi Scoffson. How you doing? You already finished streaming? Yeah, I found them. So yeah, I'm going to translate these things into 3D. Cool, man. Cool. You streamed more than 5 hours, or just a hard day in terms of like just hard day? Yeah, this could be an issue. Too many strange people. Check. What we are going to do, we are going to place. So basically what I did, I combined all these layers together. Now they all in one. So before that was separate. I combined them together, and I will turn off this one because I'm not going to sculpt it. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to choose this layer, and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to paste it into a new image as a web. And now we need to prepare it for ZBrush. We need to get rid of unnecessary details. We need to put all these things to work. Yeah, I saw. I gone through your previous stream, and yes, in my It's actually cool. It's not blocking it. I guess this radio that you are putting in there is solid. Works. Let's hope that this is like for all compositions, music compositions, not like for particular ones. Because like for instance, most of my music Twitch doesn't block, but some of that, like one song could block. So it's still not final, I guess. But I guess if you're listening through one particular radio, it's supposed to work fine. They all should be Creative Commons licenses. That's not going to be blocked by Twitch, which is a good thing. Cool. So yeah, now we need to crop this down. Whoa, that was strange. Time will tell. The more you stream, the more music it's going to play, and like with time, of course, you will figure out what's going to be blocked, what's not. And then if something is going to be blocked, you just going to act towards it. Yeah, thanks. But it took me a long time to do this. Like, it's going to be even harder now, because now I'm putting this into a 3D, and now I'm going to sculpt it, which is going to be a long time. So I guess today, since it's going to be a pretty short stream, I just going to set up everything and prepare for sculpting. And I guess like starting from next day, I guess I will definitely start sculpting. Tomorrow. Okay, so now we need to put this into 3D. So we cropped it down. Now it has like the combined height, which is the good thing, or equal height. Now we need to export it into our folder with transformers. Again, unfortunately, yeah, quality is a thing. Yeah, if you want to work on quality, you need to spend more time. This is the whole thing. If I wanted to make something quick, of course I already finished it, but yeah, quality, it's everything. So yeah, I'm not going to save it as a PNG, because unfortunately ZBrush doesn't work with PNG in terms of references, so we will save it as a JPEG. Where is the JPEG? Where is the JPEG? I don't see it. Yeah, hello, the JPEG. I call it full body all, because these are like all projections, back, side, and front. I just will save it. Whatever, it doesn't matter what type of compression we choose. By the way, the highest compression, the better quality. So is for JPEG. Which before I kind of thought that the lower compression, the higher quality, but I guess it's not the case. So we don't need metadata, we will save it as it is. So yeah, okay, now it's saved. Now we actually open it in our Faststone image viewer. And now we need to separate this in 3 parts. So basically we need to crop it down to 3 different parts. And make sure that this center line is going to be actually in the center, because we are going to sculpt with a different sides, so with mirroring, so we need to make sure that these things are going to be similar. Again, either way I will choose one thing to make it right. I'm not going to focus too much on both sides, so I will choose only one dominant side and then I will go along this dominant side. I guess it's going to be the left one. I will think about that because, yeah, I guess the left one is the best one. So yeah, supposedly it's somewhere right in center, so yeah, let's just crop this. So the one thing that we need to make sure that we maintain similar height throughout the whole thing. So this is the thing that of course we need to make sure of. Okay, I will crop it as a different file, so full body, now it's going to be a front, so let's just call it F. Save. Now we're just placing this one right here. A little bit closer to the center. It's pretty hard to do it properly, but still, you see, we are maintaining everything that we need. Height even. Yeah, for front view and for the back view, we need to maintain not only our height but width too. So both of these has to be equal or similar to each other. So now we are saving a full body back separately, again as a JPEG. What is this? Don't tell me that it's cropped like this. What's happened? Why it's cropped not properly? Okay, this is strange. This one should be cropped properly, but for some reason it didn't. Okay, let's just readdress it. We'll just recrop it. It's not a problem. Save. Oh, come on, man. What's happening? Why it's cropping the wrong way? Seriously, like, why? I guess we don't need this anymore, so we could close it. I'm not going to close this project yet. I guess we will back to it. We will go into get back a little bit. So I'm not going to close it yet. So yeah. Okay, where were we? I closed this thing. So for some reason it's cropping it the wrong way. I don't know why. Like, this is actually strange. Never happened this. This was never happened before. Okay. Let's figure out why it's cropping not the proper way. Again, I'm choosing everything the right way, but for some reason it's cropping it. Okay, let's crop this way. And then save it as front and then make it. Yeah, now it's right. So they have to be equal, so in order to make, so if we are going between both of them, they have to stay in like animation. It's going to be easier that way to project these projections into 3D. So again, back, front, so yeah, cool. Now we need to do the same for the side view. Side view, the only thing that we need to maintain for the side view, of course, is just a height, because it's definitely going to be a different width. Again, I decided not to work on a hand and on shoulders because I think all this part is going to be pretty easy to figure out when we have our basic views. Okay, let's just choose supposed center where we could place it. Yeah, I guess that's working fine. And again, since this lossless crop to file doesn't work properly, let's just use regular cropping. The only thing about regular cropping, you need to make sure that you're not going to save as your full body all, because then it will replace it, of course. So this is going to be S, which means side, and now we have all three views. Let's just go through them quickly. So cool, now we have all views that we need in order to place them into 3D and start to sculpt. Guess let's go into ZBrush. Okay, I already in ZBrush in order to save time. And also I already have our basic shape that we are going to work with. Again, you can go around this whatever you like. You can start with one primitive, you can work with multiple primitives. For now I'm going to stick, or you can work with Z-spheres. Whatever fits to you, you will choose the pattern, you will choose like preferably. For me, I think I want to go around this as I would go around this in reality, so ideally, of course, I would make some type of an armature for this and created a base thing and then started to add layers. But for this particular thing, I'm just going to start with a chunk of clay, which is going to be a sphere. Then I'm just morph it the way I want it, and then adding, subtracting, moving, and we will make the basic shape. And after this basic shape, of course, we will continue sculpting, or start sculpting, I guess. So yeah, the first thing that we need to do is go into our draw menu. We need to go into front back, and we need to add front view by importing it from here. Okay, now we have our front view. Next thing that we need to do is to make it the same as our mesh. So we are going into snap to mesh. Now it's right in the center of the mesh. Okay, so we're going into draw again, front back. Now we're adding a back view. The same way, imports, adding a back view, full body B. Now we have our back view in here. So, okay, we added the front, we added the back. We will make sure that they are right in a bit, but before that, let's just add our side view. Side view, where is our side view? So again, we go into draw. We go into left, right, and we will add our front view, side view. Hello, side view. Okay, side view is probably a problem because it's not the right scale. So we need to make it right. Not here. I guess this is the problem of the mesh, it's too high. We could do this manually though. Just by changing the scale. Okay, this is the back. Let's go manually for now. Again, we need to make sure that this is going to be a proper height. The same we're going to do for the top front. choosing a front, and again, actually, we're just going to copy the scale. So 10044. Exactly that. Good thing that we have some type of a snapping. So now everything fits to our sphere, I guess. In terms of a, so we have a back view, we have a side view, and we have a front view. Let's just save. So I guess now we need to shape our sphere to fit our views. Again, you can go about it like whatever you want, use Z-spheres or use multiple shapes to do that. I'm going to use like just one primitive for it, and I'm just going to shape it the right way in order to... Again, I turned off the mirroring. And now let's just make a quick shape. It's not going to be a pretty one, but it doesn't matter for now. Yeah, actually, I think it's not the right thing to do. Okay, because I can now starting to understand that we need to create separate separate shapes for our legs and arms. Yeah, I guess that's it. So let's then make things a little bit different. Okay, let's just make it smoother. By the way, I already turned out Dynamesh and pretty small resolution, because we are going to sculpt this shape using Dynamesh, of course. So basically we're going to make these legs, we're going to extend them, and in order for them to work, because right now we can't do anything about them because they are just basically stretching the polygons. In order to apply these polygons, we need to Dynamesh. So holding a control, left click drag, and now Dynamesh is applied. Okay, again, the whole session, today's session is going to be just a preparation before sculpting. I don't think that it's going to be like the sculpting itself, because again, I just need to make this shape like work. That's it for now. The whole session is going to be just preparing the preparations, creating a basic shape that is going to work. Again, the whole reason why I'm doing this is to, so I'm not going to use this sculpt in final work. I'm just going to use it as a reference. So it's going to be my, how do you probably say, just for the sake of gaining a new information about this complex subject, which I think is pretty complex, at least for me. By the way, I'm doing it with the mouse. It's not that intuitive, so let's just go with the stylus. Kind of forget about this. Hello, stylus. Yeah, this is different. Completely different feeling. Because using it with the mouse, it's kind of annoying a little bit, but when you actually were making this with the stylus, oh yeah, it's awesome. Okay, we're almost done with the body. So I don't know what I'm going to do about this one, so like, again, I'm sticking to the left side now. Actually, it's not in the center. Yeah, we need to make a little bit more a little bit of adjustment in a horizontal offset. Okay, now it's much closer to the center. So 591, the same for the back. 591. Let's just check this out. Whoa. Okay, for the back, I guess we need to go in the opposite direction. Minus 591. Yes. So now it's in the center, or not. Strange. Okay, if I will go down to 0, it's even worse. Yeah, we will definitely put it in 591 for now. Because again, for the bottom it works fine, but for the top, for some reason, it's completely out of it. It's like it's, I don't know, strange. Of course, I'm using a shift in order to snap view to a particular side. Okay, so yeah, let's just continue. Whoa. No thanks. Yeah, I need to be careful with activating dynamic subdivision, because I already stumbled upon this problem. So I have like pretty close to my pointing finger this dynamic subdivision key, and usually I'm pressing it, I'm forgetting about it, and then it's lagging. So you need to constantly check that you're not going to activate this dynamic subdivision, because it's going to be too hard or too much for your system to handle, especially at the beginning. And we don't need this now though. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but still I kind of want to make it as cool as possible. Okay. So yeah, I guess now we finally can create a extensions. Oh no. Yeah, I forgot. Let's add here. Just duplicate of a side view and mirror it. It's kind of supposed to be added automatically, but for some reason it's not. But it doesn't matter. So okay, now we have all views. We have front, we have one side, have back and we have the other side. And let's just, oh no, make a quick save. Again, you see, as I said before, it's so if I will use just only this view and this view, I'm not going to have enough information how, for instance, it looks from the top. And that's why we kind of got into 3D, in order to figure out how all these things are going to work. So let's just quickly start to shape up things, apply them into Dynamesh, and continue make them as close as possible to our make this hand a little bit. Again, I don't have that much of experience in sculpting either. I guess this is my probably second sculpt ever. No, not the second one. In terms of like this type of a complex organic form. I sculpted before only once. This was a human form. I'm still working on this project, but for this project also I had to sculpt small things like, for instance, boots. I also sculpted rat. So again, I don't have that much of experience in sculpting, so it's going to be like mostly exploratory. I'm just going to explore all these things and figure out how they work. And I have some experience while I'm like sculpted it, but not like some type of experience that could say that I'm a professional sculptor or whatever. But still, applying, continuing, Dynameshing. Yeah, as I said before, this part is going to be definitely the hard one. By the way, we don't need to like 100% strictly to go around these type of things, because we're still going to add them. So for now, it's kind of, we need to make a decision what things we are going to subtract and what things we are going to add. And since in most cases we are going to add things, I guess we need to create a silhouette around things that going to be subtracted, around things that are inside our form, and then we will simply add what's on top of it. So it's much easier to add something than to subtract something, like, because I remember when I created my first sculpt, I kind of figured out this the hard way, because I went around it not the smart way, and then I needed to subtract a bunch of things, and again, subtracting is much harder than adding, at least in here. It looks so funny. From the top, yeah, from the bottom, from back. Okay, we need to address this problem. Strange, unfamiliar form. Again, this one I guess I will add. Just need to create a basic thing. Okay, this is going to be a hard thing to do, this part. I don't know if even if I should do this now or not, because like part of me wants to leave it for later, because this part is definitely going to be the hardest one. I don't know how to go with it properly. So for now it's just a blob. it's not even a human form, it's not even anything, it's just a blob. Which is not even close to a human form, but still we need something like this in order to start working on something better. Consider it our base shape that we're going to use in order to make it better. Just make this one a little bit better. No, again, be careful with making subdivisions, because on this button I actually kind of get accustomed to or get used to moving the canvas inside 2D applications, and automatically my brain wants to use muscle memory and do the same here. But in here this is a different function, which not works good. Okay, I guess from the front looks decent. Yeah, I will add these later, make them better. I also can add these. So from here oh come on, we now need to create a head. So the thing about the head, I think it's definitely going to be subtracted, because this transformer doesn't have a prominent shape for the neck. That means that okay, this thing I will create like later by adding. Again, the only thing that you need to, I guess, consider when creating these type of things, at least I think we need to consider these type of things, is what you are going to subtract and where you are going to add. So again, you're not just like shaping up this form exactly as it on a silhouette. I guess it's not a proper thing to do. But instead, you just work on suggesting particular things and plan what you're going to subtract and where you're going to add. Because again, the whole thing about like sculpting is just a basic. You need to understand adding and subtracting and work with it properly. So as you see, yeah, we actually can't make this less with it, especially with this brush, but it's still pretty close, so we kind of managed to do it properly. And these things again. So for head, for instance, we could work with the subtraction, because usually when you choose where to place a particular things, you need to again think about how many information you actually have that needs to be subtracted and how many information that you already have that needs to be added. For instance, right here I have more information to be like subtracted, and I'm choosing to work around the things that inside the form, and later I will add these things, because again there's not much of them and they're pretty easy to add. For head, for instance, for the most part, we have things that outside of the form. So that means that I'm choosing, instead of going like this and then adding this, I'm going around the form itself. I'm choosing that this thing on top I will definitely add, because subtracting it's not a good thing, because again we don't have that much information for it to subtract. So for the same for this one, like what decision I need to make it right. And again, always work with your dominant side. So choose a particular side, either it's going to be a left side or the right side, and work on it. Of course, for the front view it's going to be a left side, and for this side is going to be the right side. Because especially when you have a little bit shifted center in your work, like for instance we have now. Now actually this shifted center is pretty evident. Let's make it the right way. Okay, this is the front back, nope. And for the back we need a little bit of shift in here. Too much. Yeah, this looks more like a center one. Okay, for this I still don't know how to go around this, because it's definitely going to be a pretty hard form to make. And it's now in 3D, and these views that we have not necessarily something that will help us to make it right. So it's definitely going to be something hard to make, hard to do. Okay, don't forget to Dynamesh in order to make this form apply. The cool thing about ZBrush that I like about it, it's actually like awesome artistic tool, even like not only for the sculptors but for 2D artists too, because it's pretty intuitive. It's crazy intuitive. So like the first time that I said like to work with the ZBrush, I never had a problem with it in terms of like the basic sculpting operations. Of course I had my issues with understanding how Dynamesh works, how works retopology or zero mesher and whatever. But again, for a 2D artist, you don't need that much like functions because you're not going to retopo this for the final thing unless you are using it in a 3D project, of course. So since the only thing that you need is just basics, it's like for you it's usually more than enough, just like the basic information about ZBrush. And the only thing that you need to start sculpting is to figure out how subtools work, in terms of like, okay, you're creating a sphere or whatever thing that you are starting to work with, primitive. Then you just making this primitive a polymesh. Then you go into draw mode and start sculpting. That's it. Like, this is the only thing that you need to do. Of course, in order to work with the sketching sculpting, and by sketching sculpting I mean what I'm doing now is basically creating form from one particular sphere by extending this form. For that, of course, you need to turn on a Dynamesh. Again, you're setting a resolution for Dynamesh. Usually you start with the slow resolutions, and then the more you go, the more you add. So yeah, it's kind of pretty simple thing to do. Also, I don't know if I need this blur though. Nah, it doesn't matter. No, it's just turned off blur for now. And of course, when you like actually sculpt for a finished thing, of course you going to work differently. Okay, let's make this the right way. And of course you need to like put on a particular keyboard hotkey that creates a draw size, which I'm using is S. Basically I didn't change any hotkeys in ZBrush. They're standard and they work fine. This is probably the one program that I didn't change the setup of the keys. Again, this is definitely going to be pretty hard for him to manage. It's going to have a lot of things, a lot of direction changes. As I said before, it's definitely going to be something that we're going to struggle with, or at least I'm going to struggle with, definitely. Again, these things could be added later, and of course these are from the back. It works horrible because you see, I'm working only with 2 views, not considering the whole picture like 3D. And when you understand, oh, there's a bunch of other dimensions to it. Okay, so now I need to add these dimensions. And this is when you start actually picturing it in 3D, not just using 2 projections. Now your brain is finally tries to figure out how this actual form looks from every particular angle. And this is what I like about it, like about ZBrush, and it actually very helpful for the artist. I think like the sculpting, no matter what you're doing, not even ZBrush, like even if you sculpt in real life, it definitely will make from you a better artist, because come on, you constantly work with a 3D form. You're not just creating a like illusion for this form, you actually creating this form by pulling it, pushing it, subtracting it, adding it. You analyze this form. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I actually spent too much time on these things. Let's just finish our extensions of the hands and things, and let's just start to add things. Or not start, but end the session, I guess. And starting from the next session, I'm finally going to work with adding, subtracting. So for now, I'm focusing only on moving. So the only thing that I do is I'm just move things with a move brush. That's it. And so this is pretty close to, so what I'm doing is pretty close to extruding in 3D, when you basically just like have a particular surface and use this surface to extend this surface like outside of the form. So the same thing that I'm doing here, just by using Dynamesh to make it right. Since we don't have our hand from the side view, we're going to assume how it looks by anatomical knowledge. Again, for sculpting, the same things are applied as for drawing. We need to work on silhouette constantly. We need to make this silhouette work. We need to think about I don't know like the proper way to say it, but about like transitions between these things. They need to have flow to them. They have to be dynamic. And the cool thing about sculpting that I like, I don't feel frustration when I'm working with sculpting. So if I like, for instance, try to draw this, I definitely would felt frustration. Like my brain would just That's one of the reasons why I get into sculpting. First, I actually like to sculpt. This is an awesome thing to do. And I kind of figured out that for me it's actually pretty beneficial thing. So okay, we not necessarily can pull this thing because it kind of works with both sides. So for this, I guess we need to choose a different brush. Let's just choose a clay build up and build on this form. Okay, it still works for both sides. We need only one. So clay buildup is basically a pretty good brush for the sketching. You can quickly add things, the same as subtract things. It's kind of pretty good alternative to move brush after you already established the basic forms, and move brush not necessarily works with it. Okay, since we get into the clay buildup, let's just continue work with the clay buildup. I actually like how clay buildup works. I used it on sketching, I use it even on detailed stages, so like throughout the whole thing. And again, if we will add these things, we will need to add them around. And the hard thing is going to be for me, of course, is to work with making this hard surface, because again, usually for a hard surface you will use something like, for instance, either polish, but usually for hard surface I'm using a slash. Again, I didn't work with hard surface that much. I'm using basically a slash by creating this type of a crease, then I'm making smoother this crease in here, for instance. Smooth out this crease in here. Again, we don't have enough polygons to do that, so it's not going to be shown pretty well, but still slowly making these type of transitions. So for now, let's just smooth it out. I don't need to create extensive information that will prevent me from. Okay, we're now on slash. Let's go from slash brush into the clay buildup again. Again, too fast. I don't need to go in these additional things, so let's just skip them. Let's just make this brush bigger in order to add more information in here. The cool thing, of course, when you're working sculpting with the stylus, it actually works with your pressure sensitivity. So if I will go, so for instance, this is I'm pressing too hard, and this is I'm barely pressing. So the pressure sensitivity is definitely something that works with ZBrush, and this is an awesome thing, because again, you kind of feel like you're drawing in 3D, and this is awesome feeling. You feel like you're finally in control of what you're doing. Because for me, when I'm just drawing on a 2D surface, since I'm not that good in depicting a illusion in 2D, I'm not that confident in it, so it kind of creates a problem for me. I feel pretty uncomfortable, but when I'm doing all these things in 3D, it feels more intuitive for me, of course. I guess it's going to be more intuitive for everyone, because again, this is how our brain works. It works more, it picks up better on things that are familiar, and making illusions in 2D, it's not something that our brain is constantly worked on. It's something that we need to actually learn how to do. But working with the 3D things like these, our brain, I don't know, it's like we have this in our genetic. I don't know. Not for everyone, I guess, but I always felt like sculpting for me was something that I could go and just do and without any problems. It's like I don't need to study anything to go into sculpting. I just go into sculpting and improvise and do things as I like, them to be. Yeah, we slowly could suggest already thing here. Okay, let's just subtract a little bit. again, subtracting with clay buildup works fine. It actually creates these sharp lines, which is a good thing. So yeah. Seriously? Yeah, this looks funny. Let's make it less funny. Let's make it... And again, the same applies for sculpting as for a drawing. You don't have to be discouraged when things look awful at the beginning. They're supposed to look awful at the beginning in order to make them better. So you just need to put your mindset in this position and like tell yourself constantly, it's going to become better with time. But of course you need to understand what you're doing in order to make it better. So knowing your fundamentals, knowing where you're heading is an important thing, of course. You not just like go here and you need to imagine something when you're doing it, not just making random brush strokes and hope that everything will draw itself. Again, for establishing form at this stage, it's more than enough, I guess. I guess it's even more extensive that it needs to be. I guess I need to tone it down a little bit. I'm making too many complex things already. I guess, yeah, I already, by making these complex things, made my job a little bit more harder for later stages. Because I definitely will struggle with these things because I already added them. I'll just subtract a couple of these. Again, the simpler things at the beginning, the more creativity you can achieve in terms of results. Okay, I could add these things in here, but again, it's not going to look good. It's like, oh, come on. That's why we need to understand and think ahead what we're going to add and what we're going to subtract. Because, for instance, yeah, okay, like now we need to add this thing here. How we are going to add this thing? When we're adding it by clay build-up, it's kind of adding it too much, and we need to subtract it. But if we subtract it, it's just gone. So yeah, it's a thing that you need to understand how you're going to go around this. But when we start to sculpt this, I'm definitely going to work, I guess, with a slash. I'm going to just basically create creases. Yeah, these type of creases, and I will go around these creases. So yeah, it's definitely going to be something to work with. But again, it's not going to be that easy. I definitely need to think how to address these things properly, so I'm not going to do this now. And I think this thing definitely needs to be a little bit bigger. Okay, let's just slowly finish this thing. Let's just check this out if we were right in terms of placement things. So yeah, I guess that thing works pretty fine. In terms of a basic shape at least. Not ideal, but works, which is a good thing. I guess polish is not going to be present here because we have too big of a pixelization, not pixelization, but subtracting, applying, tiny mesh, adding things. Yeah, this thing is definitely going to be separate from the leg, so it's going to be hard to showcase it properly. And of course, if we would like go and start this project by understanding that it's not going to be used in our illustration as static thing, or for the sake of making a reference. And for instance, if we would make on this project in order to finalize it and put it into animation, we would definitely start it this differently, because again, you need to always keep in mind what you're working with and where you're heading in terms of like formats that you're working with. Because again, for instance, if this one would be a completely different format, for instance, if we would put this in the game or whatever, we would definitely start to work on it a little bit differently. Because now we need to consider the fact that it's going to be put into a rigging, so it needs to be rigged, posed, and animated. And of course we need to think about these things. But again, since I'm not going to use these type of things and I'm just strictly going to use it as a reference, I'm not even going to put it directly into work. At least I'm not planning to. I don't need to stress about these things. I'm just making with one bulb thing, extending it, subtracting it, and making it as a whole, as a cohesive shape, as one shape. But of course, if you would work on it a little bit differently, you would make it like separate shapes, of course, not just one big blob. So it still doesn't look right, of course, it's pretty far from right, but at least let's just make our hand bigger. Make sure that ZBrush doesn't pick up things from that side. Again, I kind of could add a little bit more silhouette in here and actually make this big. I still need to decide how big these shoulders are going to be. This is one of the questions that we definitely need to address later. But for now, we just could put something like suggestible shoulder, that, okay, shoulder is going to be here, shoulder pad. Like, now you know it. You know where this shoulder pad is. Of course, we definitely need to subtract things in here to create proper transition, but again, it's going to be added later, not in this particular moment. So yeah, I guess on that note, I will quickly finish this thing up for now. What is this? Oh no, oh no, everything started to lag. That was scary. Let's save. Let's save. Okay, this is too much. Oh, shoot. It's like... No, it's actually turned off. Turned on. Or not. After this lag, I actually lost the pressure sensitivity to the tablet. Now it doesn't working. Either way, I'm going to like end the session, so it doesn't matter much. So yeah, I guess something like this works fine. The only thing that of course I would add is some type of a separation, but again, we're still not going to showcase this separation properly yet, because we're now working with a pretty low amount of polygons, and we don't have... It's the same like working with a small amount of pixels. So the less pixels we have, the harder is for us to work with the particular details. But again, this is a good thing that we don't have these details, because the fact that we don't have these details actually allows us to work on these things in a much more proper way. Again, yes, hand is now where it looks too like not big at all. We need to make it bigger, we need to make it wider, but for now I guess it kind of works fine. Doesn't have to be too crazy. This thing actually is going to be much higher, so the thing that I didn't want to work on 2D, because that way I would overlap parts of his mask, and we don't need that. I guess we will add this detail later after we will make our mask, because these things are definitely going to overlap, and it's not going to be something like easy to sculpt because of this overlapping. Just create a couple of suggestions for eyes and heads. All these things are not necessary at all, but if I will add them, I think they're not going to be something that's missing. It will add to our visualization how we could go and visualize it. Again, beginning stages. At the beginning stages, everything looks usually pretty bad. It has to. Yeah, I guess on that note, I guess we will end the session, because I think it's more than enough for this particular thing. I established basic things. I added everything that it needs to be added. Just make quick changes to our leg to make it actually face this. again, we're not going to go into details too much. We don't need them. We don't need details. We don't need them. So yeah, in the next session I will continue, of course, to add details to this sculpt, and kind of I will see how I go around it, because again, I don't have that much experience. So by working from this type of shape into a more complex shape, I know how it works, like theoretically, but practically, of course, I need to figure out it, like, and make it better. The last thing that we're going to add is this thing. I guess in the end we will definitely get rid of it, but for now let's just add it right now, in order to create some type of a yes. Okay, he has a bunch of problems with legs, but since legs are going to be worked around like the hard surface thing, it doesn't matter. We're still going to reshape these legs completely, so for now they work fine. Later, of course, we will make them better. All these suggestions, all these things are going to be changed completely. I don't know about dynamic though. Let's just turn off our grid and see this without it. Again, it still feels too static. There's no dynamic to it, but definitely legs not working. Too thin arms compared to what we see here. But again, the cool thing is that outside of the sculpt it looks fine. And in order to achieve the same result, and in order to achieve the same result, of course, we need to make the same things. So we need to put these small things, we need to actually create this dynamic, and so dynamic is there as base. The rest is details, and the more details we're going to put into this, the more dynamic it's going to get, I guess. For now, it's more than enough. I actually almost didn't work on the back, like, at all. We could suggest something in the back actually to make it work. Yeah, for now I guess that's it. So yeah, on that note I will definitely finish, because unfortunately there's no time, I had a bunch of things to do. So for this particular session I guess we'll finish. I guess, again, the whole session was just to prepare our base mesh, I'd say, to a sculpt. I think I did it, I prepared it. Of course there's a bunch of questions that didn't answer yet, that we need to readdress when we're going to work with the 3D. But for instance, from this angle it looks pretty cool. Like, actually it looks pretty cool from this angle. From this angle, probably not much. From this angle, not much. So yeah. But from the top it actually looks pretty cool. Even like from far. You could say that this is some type of a night, which is a good thing. We already kind of by not working that much on this sculpture, we already throughout the base mesh already established basics, which is a good thing. So yeah, cool. So yeah, we don't need that. Go back to the crypto. So yeah, finishing things, a little last thing that I'm going to say. Again, it's definitely going to be a challenging thing to do, but it's going to be much more intuitive for my brain to pick up these things, because again, now I'm actually going to work with 3D space. I'm going to rotate around things. I'm going to think about them as actual 3D object, not as a part of a projection that I need to connect these together. So you're basically putting your mind into a completely different state. Now you have the example what you are imagining, not just a vague thing that usually comes with combining these. Because again, when I combined all these shapes in here, I didn't necessarily try to understand them. I'm just tried to understand how they work in the particular angle. But ideally, I need to understand their form as a whole, from every particular angle. But since it's not necessary for this particular angle, you're just basically disregarding it. And this is one of my problems when I kind of stumble upon constantly throughout the years of like learning to draw and learning how to see, how to visualize. It was the thing that actually frustrated me a lot, because I didn't understand how to properly approach it in order to not feel bad about it and just like actually make your journey as fun as possible, with less frustrations. And I found a way, at least for me, that works fine, or should I say not even fine but perfect, because I don't feel any frustration now. Like, I feel frustration a little bit, yes, when I'm not managing to do something properly, but at least I know where I'm heading and how I know what problems I need to solve, and this way I'm not constantly in this frustration stage. I still know how to solve it, and just basically making these decisions to solve these problems, and throughout the process they are solving slowly, and the less frustration I have at the end. So yeah, pretty cool. Again, I like how our 2D sketchable phase turned out last session, and now this is a fifth one. Let's make a quick check. Yeah. Now this is the fifth stage, exploration of 3D sketching, where now we are actually trying to put the most complex subject from our illustration into 3D and actually try to figure out how it works. So this is it. So for now, this is kind of an it thing. Let's just again save, close the brush. Yeah, already save it, man. Already save it. And yeah, so say our goodbyes for now. So yeah, starting from tomorrow, of course, I will continue to sculpt this robot or transformer and actually try to understand its form in a much more complex way. I still need to figure out how I will go around this and actually make it work, because again, I don't have that much experience in it, so I'm going to figure out things on the go, which is, I guess, pretty interesting experience. Could be pretty interesting experience for the viewers too, because again, this is something that I wanted to see, how artists are actually determining problems and how they're solving them. And the whole thing about sandbox that I want to kind of portray throughout this series is I want to create something for artists that don't know how to solve particular problems, some type of an example, how I determining problems, how I'm solving these problems, in order to like create some type of an example for them to follow. Because if they saw how I'm dealing with these problems, now they could understand how to solve their own problems, because now they have example, at least one type of an example. Yeah, and basically that. So yeah, good intentions as always. So yeah, on that note, I guess we will end this part. Now it's actually final. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Have a nice day or night. See you in the next part. Bye bye.